Hello, KTAR viewers and listeners. I'm Peter Seymour, reporter with KTAR, and I'm joined here today with Brian Watson. He is a special agent with the IRS in Phoenix, and so you know what that probably means. We're in the middle of tax season. We want to know exactly how to file our taxes, what's new for 2019, what surprises can we expect or deal with or counter. So Brian, welcome back to KTAR. Glad to have you with us.
Thanks for having me.
So my first question, of course, is, that I know our viewers and our listeners want to know, with all the changes in the tax law from the Trump administration, initiated by the Trump administration, what can we expect different this year when it comes to filing our taxes?
Well, the one thing is the standard deduction is doubled, so a lot less people will be itemizing. A lot more people will be taking the standard deduction. But it's still important to keep all your records. If you donate to a charity, keep all those receipts, because when you file, even if you do take the standard deduction on your federal tax return, there's a good chance you'll be itemizing on your state return. So you want to keep all those records of all those donations you've made.
So that's the big one there. But then people have been complaining to KTAR about, oh, my tax refund plummeted or will plummet, or some said it just soared, it skyrocketed. What can we do to mitigate these surprises in our returns?
Yeah. So the IRS has a paycheck calculator where you can go in and adjust your withholdings. The biggest driver on how much you're going to get back as a refund is what kind of withholding you have. So you can go in there, and especially it would be a good time you can work on it now for your 2019 tax return. So what's done is done now. I mean, the bread's made, everything, it's going to be a refund or you're going to owe. But you can adjust it, and you can talk to your employer, and you can fill out a W-4, which will adjust your withholdings. So a lot of the withholdings dropped, so a lot of people were getting money back during the year. And the one thing we do recommend is we actually recommend people don't get huge refunds, because for this example, what if someone stole your identity and your refund gets held up? You don't want a $5,000 or $6,000 refund being locked up, and also you're not earning any interest on it, and you can't use that money for other things. So ideally you want to get a refund of zero and pay zero, but I've never met anybody who actually was able to work that out exactly that way.
I know people like to have something at the beginning of the year from last year, but you're right, you want to make sure that the psychology is right for us, so that we're not being surprised one way or another. And then I know there's always scams out there. Mm-hmm. Everyone is trying to cheat us out of our money. What are one or two of the biggest scams the IRS is seeing right now? The
biggest scams we're seeing is the phishing scams. So unsolicited emails and text messages claiming to be from the IRS. This is the simple message. We are very old school. We don't send emails. We don't send text messages. We're going to contact you with a letter. But these things are very enticing. You open up your email, and there's something that appears to be from the IRS. It has the IRS font on it, and it says you're getting a refund, or there's been suspicious activity on your account, and they want you to open up the email. That causes all kinds of problems. It could be an attachment with malware. It could be them just trying to get your social security number. If you get an email like that, just delete it.
Yeah, and not even report it, just simply hit delete.
Right.
Because I would imagine it could be tough for authorities to track where these emails originate. So it's just wipe it away, just get rid of it.
Right, and that's the thing. And these criminals send thousands of these emails every day. They only have to get lucky every once in a while. I've gotten some emails, and they look believable. Yeah. I mean, they're always crafting them and using certain words, and you just click on it. But certainly delete all those emails. Certainly don't open up any attachments. Those attachments could be filled with the malware that gets on your computer, gets on your work computer. You're going to cause all kinds of problems.
I noticed that there are two different scams out there. One is phishing attack. One is a spear phishing attack.
Right.
What are these?
So a phishing scheme is general. They're just casting out the net, trying to catch any unsuspecting victims that they can. Spear phishing is extremely targeted. It's pinpoint. They're looking for certain people who have access to very particular information. For instance, we were seeing one called the CEO scam, and the email made it appear to come from the president of the company, like a chief financial officer of a company, and it would target someone in human resources or in payroll, and they would send a specific targeted email asking for instance, all the W-2s for everyone in a department. Then they can take that information and use it to do bad things, like file a whole bunch of bad tax returns.
So it's literally or figuratively, I should say, firing a spear. You know, you would think of if you're a fisher and you're out in the deep sea, you're firing a spear and gearing it right toward your victim, and probably the email address has the same company account that you would
Right.
have.
Well, and they've spoofed it. These criminals can make the email look like it's coming from anybody. So just because it even says that, that's why people fall for it. And then it also has the authority behind it. And you want to be responsive to your boss. I mean, everyone does.
Yeah.
You know, that's your job. You want to look like you're a hard worker and you're responsive. But so the key is this: if you're a company owner, you need to reach out and train your employees and tell them, ask questions. Don't be afraid to go to someone else, you know, because these schemes are out there. I mean, we've seen it where they're targeting universities and targeting large corporations. So, and it's not just one victim. You're going to have all kinds of victims if you're someone who provides that information to the criminals.
When it comes to preparing taxes, how do you know that the tax preparer is someone you can trust? And following up to that, you know, there are services online, TurboTax, for example, that even offer CPAs. How do you know who to trust, whether it's in person or online?
Well, same way you'd pick a doctor or dentist. Do you just open up the phone book? Well, dating myself there. Or, do you just open up the internet and pick the first name that pops up? No, you ask your friends at work. You ask your neighbors. You ask your family. You know, if you're new into town, hey, I need a new family doctor. I'm looking for a good dentist. The same way. Do you prepare, 55% of people use paid return preparers, so more than half of all Americans that file taxes. So ask around. How long have you known them? Are they good? Are they responsive? Do you like them? And then that's your best bet. I mean, then you can also check the Better Business Bureau. You can do an internet search and see if they run afoul with the law. But ask them, and then go interview them. Ask them good questions.
What about online? So the CPAs that are in these chats, you've seen them pop up.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, my name is so and so. How can I help you today? What's your question? How do we trust those people that we can't even see?
Maybe in that case, trial and error. But it's more using a company that you've used for years. Like I do an online software, and I've been using it for years, never had problems. If I did have problems, I'd go somewhere else. But I've also, I ask around, and people talk. If you're using one software company or software provider, and they're starting to charge too much, or they're slow in getting the updated forms, you can always go somewhere else. You can also file on irs.gov. We have this whole, you can click on an area for filing your tax return. For certain income levels, it's free for taxpayers, and then if you're over a certain income threshold, you have to pay, but it's a nominal amount. So there's a lot of different options. 90% of people are filing electronically now. There's a lot less errors. You're going to get your refund quicker, and who can argue with that?
No, and absolutely not. Speed and more money, or faster money, I'll take that every day of the week.
Yep.
Some other questions I have here too. Back to red flags for these tax return preparers. So we know who to look for. Who do we not look for?
Right. So if someone says they can get you a big refund and they haven't even looked at your personal information, that's a huge red flag. They don't know. Maybe with your information, you're going to have to pay $1,000. They should be able to look at your specific information and prepare a return. Don't go with those big promises. They're just trying to get you in the door. Also, any return preparer who bases their fee on a percentage of your refund, you might think, well, that's okay. They're just asking for 10% of my refund. That's fair. Well, it's not, because there's a built-in incentive for them to pad your return. What if you did owe $1,000? 10%, they're going to actually have to pay. So that number doesn't work, So walk out the door if they do that. Also, a good return preparer will go through the return with you line by line and explain everything for you. We see things like return preparers putting on dependents, people that you don't even know, just to get you a better refund. If you get a tax return with a name that you don't even know on there, that's not your child or dependent, just walk out the door.
Yeah, like you said, people would like to pad so that they can incentivize and so forth. And if they're putting names on there that you don't recognize, very important. Just, again, get out of there so that you're not in any criminal trouble either. It's not just about a refund here. It's about, you're breaking the law.
Right, and IRS does, we do prosecute, the United States Attorney's Office does prosecute the unscrupulous return preparers, the ones that file hundreds of bad returns. Now, we rarely prosecute the taxpayers in that instance. If someone did go to a return preparer, they would just be responsible for paying back the back tax, some interest and penalties, but they wouldn't be going to jail. The people that we investigate criminally are the return preparers, who are the ones filing those hundreds of bad returns.
Interesting. Let's see, and then a couple other questions I have here from our KTAR viewers and listeners. Let's see, have you seen a scheme where criminals are having fraudulent refunds deposited into a victim's bank account? I would imagine that's like money laundering.
You're right. Well, it's very ingenious. So over the years, we've had an issue with identity theft. So it's basically identities are stolen, and they're used to file tax returns with those names. And what you find out when you go to file your tax return, you've already filed. We only ask for one return a year. Well, we put in all kinds of filters, working with industry, state and local governments, we put in these filters to stop the fraud. Well, the criminals know that these filters are out there, so they've actually, using stolen identities, filed tax returns, but actually had the refund go into the victim's bank account, so it wouldn't trigger one of the filters. And then what they do, and this is very ingenious, I got to give them a little bit of credit, they'll actually call the victim and tell them, I'm with the IRS, there's been a mistake, check your bank account. Get on your phone, get on your home computer, you look and there's a tax refund and you haven't filed yet. So then they give you instructions where to wire that money. And they've basically just stolen money using you. It is, like I said, it's a creative scheme, and that's why they're criminals. You know, their job is to get up in the morning and steal money from hardworking people. This is not a huge scheme. It's kind of developing last year. We just started noticing it, but we want to warn people, if you get a call like that, just hang up on these people. That's one thing to remember. We don't call people, you know, and demand. Well, first, we don't call and demand money over the phone. We could talk about that, but that's not how we would communicate with people. We're going to send you a letter.
Right. So I guess we can conclude by asking, how does the IRS contact people? How do we know it's the IRS calling us and not some criminal?
Right. So let's say there's an audit going on or something was missing on your tax return. We're old school. We're going to send you a letter. We're going to explain everything that's going on. You have an opportunity to challenge it. I mean, I've received one of those letters. Made my heart skip a beat when you work for the IRS and you get a letter from the IRS. But the key is we're going to start that process that way. Now, there are times when an IRS employee would call you. If there was an ongoing audit or a collection activity, or as a special agent, I might call someone up to set up an interview. But here's the deal. We don't call up, we don't leave messages, we don't have robocalls telling you that you owe money and you need to pay right now. There is this high-pressure scheme that's been going on since 2013, the IRS impersonation scam. Over $70 million has been lost. So the biggest thing that everyone needs to know out there, if you get one of these calls, don't be afraid, just hang up on them. That's not how we do business. And you got to reach out to those family members and friends who might fall for a scheme like that. Someone that lives by themselves, maybe they're older, maybe they're just not real financially savvy. They get that call and the criminals are telling you to pay right now. They're telling you to drive to the store and go buy a prepaid money loaded card. And sometimes they've even done crazy things like asking people to buy iTunes cards, and people falling for it all the time.
Right, and that's just not the way things are done, for sure. And even on a professional level, it's just not the way it's done. And then is there any relation to that to the tax transcript email scam?
So the tax transcript email scam, it's another one of the phishing scams. Mm-hmm. And they're putting keywords in there to get you to bite. You know, phishing, you need bait, and the bait is tax transcript, and you think, well, maybe it has to do with my tax transcript or my tax account, and you open it up and click on it, and it's basically a way to get malware on your computer. It's malicious software, so it could be anything from ransomware to keystroke, device on your computer. Just delete that. You know, don't even be enticed. If you have questions about your account, you can call the IRS directly. You can also go to irs.gov, or you can make an appointment and go to a local office. But do not fall for these tricks.
All the more reason to be in touch with the IRS personally. Let them contact you via snail mail first, and then deal with human beings right after that. Very good. Well, Brian Watson, again, is our guest right now. He is from the IRS office, special agent with the IRS in Phoenix, and helping us get through the rest of this tax filing season. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Great, thank you.
Here's our top story. KTAR News, 92.3 FM, Arizona's news station.